So today's episode, a little bit different. So I'm actually going to be doing a video review of Citizen Evil. Not so much a video review, but kind of like a summary. Like, hey, like you guys haven't seen me post the chapter, post the pages, post some of the promo art and concept art, but I've been talking about everything but the actual comic itself, the comic that I created and did not illustrate. I always have to emphasize that because people will be coming to me like, hey, you know, did you illustrate all of this? Like, no. Let me just emphasize that. No, I did not illustrate any of that. All right. I wish I was as talented as my illustrator. Even back in the day, like I was like a little talented back in the day, but I fell off, man. I think in college, just took a lot more serious approach to my studies. So I was still kind of doing art in college. I was doing art for like a minute, maybe like sophomore year, junior year in college. But at that point, once I got to junior year, that's how I knew like, yo, all right, I ain't gonna make it to major leagues. All right, I wasn't as talented, but yeah, no. So this video is gonna be a lot more in depth about just talking about my actual series, you know, Citizen Evil. So what is Citizen Evil? Citizen Evil is a rom-com / dark fantasy story. Dark fantasy, what I said, the dark fantasy story. Those are essentially like my two favorite genres. What like definitely a very good dose of action. I love action too, you know. But out of all the genres, I feel like the genre that's kind of slept on the most is rom-com or just romance in general. Like I won't say like it's slept on, but people underestimate romance. People really underestimate romance. Who doesn't love a good romance element in anything you do? You know, like it's a sense of romance that's intimate. So combine romance with comedy, rom-com, and like I said, those are like my two favorite things. You know, compared to action and horror and dark fantasy and other genres that may kind of get more shine, and murder mysteries. I know that's like a popular one with podcasts, like murder mysteries. Compared to those ones, you know, rom-com kind of takes like a back seat, but I feel very differently. I feel like rom-com is an element that's in almost every series, and you just can't sleep on it, you know? And it's hard to do a good rom-com. That's what my goal is, all right? So, of course, I'm still kind of new to the game in general in terms of like script writing and story writing. Like everything is in my head. I see everything play out in my head, and I try to put it on paper or on script. You know, so you know, I can only get inspirations from the great shows that I've watched. You know, a lot of the great anime rom-coms that I've loved, including Korean rom-coms. That's something that I'm a do too in terms of like series reviews on K-dramas. You know, my boy was talking to me like, yo, you know, I love your take on this K-drama that we were watching. I guess I gave him a perspective that was like super different. He was like, yo, bro, you should, you know, do reviews on that too. Like, I was like, well, sure. You know, I never thought about it like that, but I watch a lot of K-dramas too. You know, they'd be fire. I don't know. I feel like I've been so oversaturated with like Americanized shows that like I feel like watching foreign shows essentially just really gives me like a different perspective on things. I feel like their way of storytelling is just refreshing. You know, it's something I noticed in terms of American storytelling is they tend to be a bit more over sexualized compared to other forms of storytelling in different, you know, cultures. But that's here nor there, right? I'm kind of deterred from the point. But Citizen Evil, like I said, is a rom-com / dark fantasy. Two main characters, Damien and Rin. All right, Damien is the, you know, quote unquote hero. You'll see throughout the series that I want him to be clearly not your typical hero, like a anti-hero. All right, you'll kind of notice that throughout the series. Just a story of an overly fixated boy who's in love with Rin, this girl who comes from one of the wealthiest families in the series, one of the wealthiest families across the globe. Very popular, very pretty, like your typical standard, supposedly overly pompous female character, right? But as you get to know her as well, you'll notice that there's different elements of her that isn't the norm compared to what you would see from that kind of archetype. So, I always love the perspective of boy chase girl when it comes to rom-com. When you see rom-com nowadays, especially like rom-coms that are kind of centered towards like females, or like they're advertised towards females, it's usually like girl chase guy, girl doing something over a guy. Like, call me old-fashioned, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but like I love the guy chasing girl. I love women. Women are beautiful entities, so I love the aspect of a guy chasing a girl, or a guy courting a girl. I won't say like chasing. We don't really condone that here, but I love the aspect of a guy going after a girl. Like, hey, like putting your best foot forward, gives you the feel of the underdog. So that's what I'm trying to capture for this series. And then the dark fantasy aspect is going to be a pattern of, I feel like every general rom-com has like a pattern, right? So for the most part, I gave you guys the synopsis. So if you guys see me at conventions, I give out hard copies, right? So the synopsis is on the back, but right, the thing that I don't highlight is like a running theme in this series is, all right, he's talking to Citizen Evil. Where does Citizen Evil come into play? Citizen Evil is this online troll. It's like, now he's not a troll per se, but it's definitely like some suspicious person online, an online entity that Damien talks to from time to time. So essentially, like, per episode, he gets into some crazy dark stuff, and he gets that through Citizen Evil. My online friend, the dark web. So he's talking to Citizen Evil. How help me get this girl? What's the means I can do to kind of get her attention? What's something I could take to make me appeal more to her? So that's going to be like the running theme, and then Citizen Evil just gives him these outlandish, supernatural like means to try to win her over. But there's always like a catch, right? There's always like a backfire. So it's like, all right, well, if you do this, you'll grow this much taller, but on the upside, you can't see or you can't speak. Like, it's always one of those balancing acts where it's like, hey, there's a pro, but then there's a heavy con. So I always feel like when it comes to dark fantasy, especially in that kind of element, that I'm trying to make it a reoccurring thing, because each chapter will essentially be its own story. There's a main story, but in the earlier chapters, it's probably going to be just basic, right? Especially because I'm probably going to be coming with a couple of short stories within the universe just to highlight, the everyday doings of Damien and the everyday doings of Ren. But, that dark fantasy element where it's like, all right, the things that he gets from Citizen Evil has, like an eerie feel to it, like an eerie kind of consequence that you always kind of notice with these kind of horror scenes or horror movies, where it's like, all right, well, there's very, very small reward, and there's typically like very, very high risk. And the risk is usually something like, I won't say crazy, but definitely like eerie, where it's like I said, you'll grow tall, but you'll lose your mama type ish, right? So wanting to bring that element to it. And the way I'm kind of mixing the story for Citizen Evil is like, hey, the dark fantasy / horror element is going to be coming from the online entity itself, Citizen Evil, the person he talks to, who he doesn't know, never met, just talking to this person who has the username Citizen Evil, and it's like, hey, you really think it's a good idea to talk to somebody who's titled that? But nobody really cares when it's on the internet. So the dark fantasy element comes from that, and then just the comedic aspect comes from Damien. I want Damien to be a hilarious character. Something I've noticed is that certain anime shows have a way of gravitating towards me, or I have a way of gravitating towards them, just by like, hey, how it presents itself, and then how it catches me. Like, yo, if it could really make me laugh, it's like, oh damn, it got my attention. That's some funny stuff. But again, like I said in my very first episode, this is male-centered comedy, so it might not be relatable to all people, but I promise you, it's more so relatable to like the common man, the common maybe like perverted man or something like that. We love women, in general. So just the guy who's see that hot girl and it's like, oh man, I wish I could get that hot girl, and just viewing comedy and romance from that kind of approach. You know, what was it? I love the 40-year-old version, so that kind of comedic romance per se. You know, so that's the general gist of what Citizen Evil is. Right? It grows to be a lot more, but just something that I want to give to you guys that's digestible. Like that's the essence of what it is in the first couple chapters. Right? This rom-com, guy chasing girl is way over his league, but he's perverted and he doesn't care. He gets help from suspicious entities to try to gain her favor. That always backfires. So that's the essence of what it is for now. More episodes, or I will say more videos to come with me kind of explaining a little bit more in depth, including the characters. So me explaining Damien a bit more in depth, me explaining Ren a bit more in depth, and maybe even me explaining the universe more in depth. But the synopsis is still there. The synopsis is just the general video of Citizen Evil being more than just the online entity and potentially being associated with quote unquote a book. So if you read the synopsis, you'll know about the book. So yeah, man, just a lot more content to come, but I just wanted to make a video just highlighting what is Citizen Evil and just what to look forward to, what to expect when reading, you know, the chapter or reading pages. So you have an idea of, all right, is this something that I'm going to be into? I'm going to be into something that's geared towards rom-com and dark fantasy. If you're not into dark fantasy, you're not into rom-com, you might not like Citizen Evil, all right? But I'm just putting that disclaimer out there now, all right? Your boy MAS is out. Holla back.